This is Weekends with Alex Witt, July 25th, 2020.
Coronavirus cases are on the rise in California. The state now has more than 443,000 confirmed cases. It is the most in the United States, with more than 8,300 people having died from the virus. Los Angeles County, it's the hardest hit, making up more than half of those deaths. Joining me now is California Congressman Ted Lieu, Democratic member of the House Judiciary and Foreign Affairs Committee, and always a welcome presence here on the show. It's good to see you again, Congressman. California, your state and mine, I might add, the dubious distinction it owns of being number one. What are your biggest concerns right now, and what are you hearing from your LA County constituents?
Thank you, Alex, for your question. California has nearly 40 million people. We're the fifth largest economy in the world. So when you reopen, you do expect to see a rise in cases. We just want to make sure that this virus does not get out of control. And that's why it's so important for people to do three very simple things. Wash your hands frequently, do social distancing, and wear a mask in public. If people just do those three things, we can dramatically slow the spread of this virus.
So look, all you're saying is perfectly acceptable, makes perfect sense, but it's a big if. I've been there. I've seen people that aren't wearing their masks, for one. How likely is the possibility of a second shutdown?
So I don't think right now the data would support a statewide shutdown, especially because certain counties are doing quite well, others are not. So the virus is not uniformly distributed across California. I do want to urge Republican elected officials at both the federal and local level to take this virus more seriously, to tell their own constituents to wear masks in public. I'm pleased that the president has now finally gotten around to telling people to wear masks. And we just need people across America and in California to follow that very simple admonition. Just wear a mask in public.
Yeah. You mentioned Republicans, so this goes to my next question as we turn to the round of coronavirus relief that's on the way, we hope. Senate Republicans are expected to unveil their proposal next week, but as we wait, as you know, the federal eviction ban expired overnight, and then next week we've got that $600 a week boosted unemployment program that's running out. How confident are you, Congressman, that a deal can get done quickly, and how will the eviction ban and lack of unemployment checks impact your constituents?
The House of Representatives passed the HEROES Act on May 15th, a second round of stimulus. It is completely unacceptable for the White House and Senate Republicans to have delayed for over 2 months. They twiddled their thumbs while Americans were hurting. And as a result, numerous provisions of the first stimulus are going to expire, including these federal unemployment benefits. And I hope Donald Trump and Republicans get their act together because American people need help.
Clearly, but when you just said May 15th was when the House, the democratically led House, passed the HEROES Act, we're now well past 2 months, to your point. So this thing happening quickly, something get agreed upon, what do you think the likelihood is of that happening?
I never pretend to understand how the Republican-controlled Senate actually works. I do know they're trying to come up with a proposal. They can't even agree among themselves to put in writing what their proposal is. And if American people are angry at this delay and incompetence, they should really think about this in November when they can go vote for a new White House and a new Senate.
Let's talk about the situation in Portland, Oregon, with the protesters who've been clashing big time with the federal agents there. As you know, the president announced this week that he's going to send federal troops to other cities. That includes Chicago. You have heard people suggest this is a form of martial law and that it could be used as some sort of a blueprint to hold power were the election to go against this president. Does that feel far-fetched to you?
So I never put anything beyond what Donald Trump thinks or can do. So that does concern me. At the same time, the House of Representatives is doing everything we can to rein in this lawless conduct. One of the reasons that Bill Barr and others have been able to deploy these random federal units, both in Washington, D.C. and in Portland, is because the U.S. Marshals has been deputizing federal officials to engage in law enforcement that they're not trained to do. So just this week, Representative Earl Blumenauer and I announced legislation that would restrict the ability of the U.S. Marshals to deputize all these federal officials. And what we are seeing in Portland is completely unacceptable. Donald Trump is inflaming tensions We saw now a wall of veterans. We saw moms and dads behind that wall of veterans. And Americans are not that enemy. Donald Trump needs to take his stormtroopers and take them.
Stormtroopers. With regard to that bill, what has been the reaction to the one that you're proposing?
So I'm very pleased it's gotten a good reaction. We're also in the midst of doing appropriations. And so I know through the appropriations process, there's also going to be amendments put in that would also prevent funding for officials that the U.S. Marshal Service has deputized to engage in cracking down on these protesters, both in D.C. as well as in Portland and potentially in other cities as well.
Yeah, and let me just add, Joe Biden had a pretty good response when it comes to the concern about this president not leaving the White House were he to lose the election and challenge things. I believe he said something last weekend to the effect of the United States military is perfectly capable of removing a trespasser from the property. That was a good one. All right, Ted Lieu, thank you so much. Good to see you. What to make of the CDC's new guidance about sending students back to school? A teacher, a doctor, and former Education Secretary Arne Duncan will join